session, so let me start that. Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, had some connectivity issues today, so welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you've had a great week so far. We're coming to the end of our 2 days of Spring Welcome Week. I hope that y'all been able to attend some of the other sessions so far this week and that you've been able to take away some tips and tricks to help you throughout the semester. Today you are in a sort of review session for a ACUE course that several full-time and part-time faculty, not only at CC but across the state, were able to participate in last fall. So several of us that participated and completed that module in the fall had worked together throughout I think it was 8-week course. And then we decided that we wanted to give you kind of a condensed version of the tips and tricks and strategies that we learned in this session last fall. So we've picked out, I think, 5 of the strategies and the modules that we thought were the most effective and most helpful for us. And we're going to talk about at least 3 of them today. We've also put together a quick tip sheet of just a few different bullets from 5 of the modules that we're going to share with you after the session concludes. So today we're going to go through 3 of those, and I'm going to let the presenters introduce themselves as we go through each topic. So first, Cassie Lyles and I are going to talk to you about the first module that we went over, which was welcoming students. So Cassie, if you want to go ahead.
Sure, yeah. I think I'm still seeing the slide. Not that it matters, but anyway, oh, there we are. Okay, hi everybody, I'm Cassandra Lyles, or Cassie Lyles, whichever you prefer, and I'm the video instructor, and I also run the college's 2 cable channels. So one of the things that was a real aha moment for me when I was taking this ACUE course was how, when we were doing the module on welcoming students, they talked about using video to engage your students in your class. Now, why this never occurred to me before, I don't know, because I'm the video instructor, and for 17 years before I started teaching video, I was a director. So I know the power of video, I know what it can do, and I know that students today use video in every aspect of their lives. I also know that a lot of teachers are very uncomfortable using video themselves, like we don't like the way we look, we don't like the way we sound, so on and so forth. But I think if you're not going to put video in any part of your course, you're really missing an opportunity to connect with your students and to have them feel more connected with you. So I wanted to go over really quick about what you should put in your welcome video, and really quick a couple technical things to help your video look better. On the tip sheet, there is a link to a fall professional development that I did that gives you more tips on lighting and audio and all that fun stuff if you guys want to check that out. So, oh, thank you about the fireplace. Yeah, that's a fun thing that my students got into. We put different stuff in the TV. They got to vote every week on what went in the TV. So sometimes it's an aquarium, sometimes it's a fireplace, whatever. So that's a fun way to engage students too. Okay, so why should you do a welcome video? Well, if you think about how weird it would be for you to walk into your physical classroom and just start teaching without introducing yourself, you can kind of get the feeling that your students online would feel the same way. So even if you are teaching a seated course or a class that has synchronous meetings, you still want to introduce yourself to your students. And what I suggest is a quick 2 to 3 minute video. Try not to make it longer than that, where you sit down and just introduce yourself to your students. So on the first day that class is open, which in this case would be Friday for us, right? It would go out in the announcements, and it would be a quick video of you saying, hi, I'm teacher so-and-so, and this class is such and such, and here's who I am and what I like to do. The same thing that you would say to them when you walked into the class and stood in front of them. This gives students the opportunity to connect with you and say, oh, that's who my teacher is. That's what she looks like. That's what she sounds like. I get it. You know, now I don't feel so weird sending her an email or calling her on the phone. For your first welcome video, tell me if I'm going too long, by the way, but for your first welcome video, quick technical tips, and then I'm going to turn it over to Erin. Your camera should be at eye level. We know that psychologically students get weirded out if you are looking down at them or up at them on your camera. It's just, they won't even understand why they feel uncomfortable, but we know from tons of research and video that that is true. They will feel uncomfortable. So put your camera at eye level. Make sure you have a semi-neutral background. Not too much going on that they can get distracted by. Check your audio and dress professionally for your first video, but also let your personality shine. Later videos, if you're going to do them later in your class, you can be a little more casual, but for the first one, you want to, you know, like you would be in front of them in class. And Erin is going to talk about the other places you can use video to welcome students.
Thank you, Cassie. Cassie, I'm going to give an example of what you shouldn't have in your background, and that is a 4-year-old conducting class behind me. But that's just how the situation worked out today. I've bribed her to please stay quiet and not ask me any questions right now. So anyways, thank you, Cassie. So before I talk about the video, I wrote down this quote that I think was in this same module, and I keep it here on my bulletin board beside my desk, and it said, if I know this very basic fundamental thing, then everyone else must know it. And that is something I struggle with in my personal life and especially my professional life. You know, you get used to doing the same thing for your job, you get used to working in Blackboard, and I have a habit of forgetting that, hey, this is my everyday life and this is what I work with all the time, but it's not necessarily what everyone else is used to, or it's not necessarily common knowledge to everyone else. So in that module, they talked about doing a course tour, a screen share video of to show students how to navigate your Blackboard course. And I have been using an LMS for 12 years now, and I finished my last 2 years of undergrad completely online. And when online courses still first became popular, it was very much like a you're on your own, figure it out kind of thing. So when I started teaching online, I thought this will be really easy, and I have been an online student so much that I know exactly what students want in their course. I know how to I know how to organize it nicely because I can remember those courses that were an absolute disaster that I took, that I couldn't find my way through anything. But it never dawned on me until this course. I mean, I've gotten emails from students over the last couple of years saying, how do I find this? How do I find that? And I'm thinking, have y'all never seen Blackboard before? And so I finally realized, okay, some of these students have never seen Blackboard before, especially since most of the courses I teach are intro-level courses. A lot of them are high school students who this is their first experience with a learning management system. So, they're already overwhelmed when they first start an online course or a college course, period. So, they get thrown into a Blackboard course and there's no one there to say, this is where you go to find this. So while we were in this module last semester, I had a couple courses that hadn't started yet. So I went ahead and did like a 5-minute screen share of, welcoming them to the class and just saying, look, this is where you find your announcements. This is where you find your weekly assignments. This is where you find your exams. And also, this is where you find the Grade Center. And if you're not sure if you've submitted an assignment, you can go to your Grade Center. And, I walked them through it and showed them, where they could see their grades and their feedback, and the symbol that shows them that it's in a needs grading status, which tells them that they have submitted something. So it took, less than 5 minutes, and I included it separate from that intro video that Cassie mentioned. but still during that first week of class. And I had, for the first semester ever, I had no emails with questions about where to find assignments or how to check the grade book or anything like that. So I think it's just it's a really small or it's a really easy thing to do to significantly decrease students' anxiety about navigating your online course. And in the topic of welcoming students, as we've mentioned, we do have a tip sheet that we're going to share with you at the end of the session that has a whole bunch of other tips too that kind of goes along these same lines. But Cassie, if you don't have anything else to share, we'll go ahead and move on to the next topic of establishing norms. And we do have time to get questions at the end of this session, okay?
Yep.
Thank
As I say, if anyone has questions, we'll do it at the end. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Erin. I'm going to start off with the establishing a civil classroom. I thought this was a very important section of the course because this is something that can kind of catch you off guard. So what happens when students start behaving like you don't expect them to behave? Rude to each other in an online setting. What do? Well, an important thing to do, first of all, is to establish a plan before it happens. And that was a big part of this module, kind of breaking it down and giving you the process. So you start off with, what are your expectations of your students? What are the norms that you're expecting? So write those down. So if a student is posting in a forum, what are your expectations? If they're posting in a chat or talking and collaborate, what are your expectations for behavior? Same for the classroom and whatever environment that you're working with. So write down your expectations for the students and think about them. So once you write them out, include them in your syllabus. Emphasize them in announcements so that students know, when we meet, this is the expectation that I have of you and your behavior. So you establish it right from the beginning. And I thought this was an excellent reminder because it's something you can easily overlook. But then when it happens, you're like, oh my goodness, did I say anything about this in the syllabus? So it can really catch you off guard. So this is a great time to look at your syllabus and say, do I have anything like this in my syllabus for if people are not behaving the way they're supposed to in these environments? So then once you establish what your behavioral expectations are, you then look at how you behave when they follow your rules. So if someone makes a great discussion board post, you might reply and say, that was an excellent post. You did a great job. And so that's establishing that this student's following the rules, and you're showing the class that as a great model post in the discussion forums. The same thing with your Collaborate live sessions. Maybe someone raises their hand before they ask a question. You can say, wow, that was really good that you raised your hand. And then you could answer the question. So when you see students modeling the behavior you've asked them to do, go ahead and point it out and let the class see that this person is behaving the way you are expecting them to. And that will really help. Now, problems come when you have the behavior that is not what you're hoping for and not what you're expecting. And you need to be careful with this kind of behavior. So if someone's acting rudely in the discussion forums, for example, you don't want to spend too much time pointing that individual out and having a conversation with them in front of the entire class. So that's one thing you want to be careful with. If you want to talk about the norms, go ahead and use just the class as a whole, either addressing them in your online section, your synchronous section, through announcements, or right during the session if you're in Collaborate. Address the class as a whole. Point out the syllabus. Remember, we talked about these things. And then later on, you can send emails to the individual students and then address the problems. And also just use it as an opportunity to form a connection with the student. Don't just assume the worst just because they did not follow the norms. Reach out to them, see if there's something going on in their lives. Are they having trouble with something? And so it gives you an opportunity to investigate the student and see if you can make a connection with them, and maybe it'll help you cut off some future problems that might happen down the road. So I thought it was an excellent module. And that was a general overview. We have an overview in the handout as well that we'll send out. And I'll go ahead and pass it off to Charles now.
Well, while I was taking this course, I'm new to online learning, and I really wanted to do discussion boards. And I didn't really realize that all these things could go on during a discussion board. So with that said, I employed my first discussion board. I came up with my own net etiquette rules before I actually started the discussion board, and I was very surprised. I was very surprised that, well, some of them couldn't spell real good, if you know what I mean. But all the different positive remarks and information that I learned, and I carried it forward, and I found out that my students, number one, felt safe in the classroom. They felt like, hey, Mr. Bell has set forth these rules that we're supposed to follow. And then I think they found a new respect for me that, hey, I was going to take care of them. I was going to make it a safe environment for them. And then my second discussion board was like, wow, this thing took 2 hours to grade. They wrote so much. So it's a very good thing to do. And I'm glad I took the class, and I learned a lot by doing that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, I think I'm next on the same topic. And I just kind of will piggyback to what Charles said, that I have not been a fan of discussion boards. Most of the classes that I have been teaching, of course, have been seated. They just weren't something that I wanted to delve into because of etiquette issues. And now with us having to teach more online courses, after having taken this course, I understand that they are a useful tool for your students. Not only to allow your students to have a place to converse with each other on non-school stuff, but also, you know, if one student has a question about something, there's a chance another student also has that same question. So if they post that question in the discussion board, they might be able to get their question answered without you even having to, you know, respond to 5 different emails from 5 different students all asking the same question. So I'm encouraged a little more with using discussion boards now, with knowing how to implement these etiquette rules. And who am I supposed to pass it back to now?
I'll say one more thing. You know, the students get used to doing an everyday task. They do something every week, do review questions, do this, do that. And it really breaks things up here and there and gives them a little bit of a break, but you can arrange it so they learn the same amount of information that you previously wanted them to learn. Okay. And we'll pass it back to Jamie, right, Jamie?
Yeah, Seth and Lisa are going to do the next section.
Yeah.
I guess I could actually turn on my microphone and and camera for this section. We actually have a couple of small slides that we wanted to share with everybody. The section that we reviewed was on implicit bias. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was actually develop or try to find a great definition for what implicit bias is. So according to the folks over at Brown University, implicit or unconscious bias refers to the attitudes or stereotypes that affect our understanding, actions, and decisions in an unconscious manner. These biases, which encompass both favorable and unfavorable stereotypes, are activated involuntarily and without an individual's awareness or intentional control. These biases can cause us to have feelings and attitudes about other people based on characteristics such as race, ethnicity, age, appearance, etc. These unconscious associations develop over the course of a lifetime, beginning at a very early age, through exposure to both direct and indirect messages. In addition to early life experiences, the media, stories, and books we are exposed to, and news programming are often cited origins of unconscious associations. So since we work in an educational setting, it's important for us to understand how implicit bias can affect our interactions with students inside and outside of the classroom. To help facilitate the discussion, you were asked prior to the session to complete the Age Implicit Association Test, or the AIT, through the Harvard University website. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this up into some breakout groups for about 5 minutes. During this breakout session, we'd like for you to consider the following questions. Lisa, you want to talk about the questions?
Yes. So hopefully you did have time to go through the quiz. It took me about 15 minutes to do, and it was interesting, to say the least. And what we'd like you to do is to, in your breakout group, to talk about kind of what your experience was, and to identify any connections between your AIT results and stereotypes that you may have been exposed to while growing up. In other words, do you see where you might have had some of these stereotypes? And then, were you able to see any connections between your results and your interactions with students in the classroom? And we picked age because we felt like that would be a very good one and applicable to the community college setting, since we do deal with a variety of age groups. So Seth, are you setting up those groups?
So we do have the questions up here that we'd like for you to discuss. What are your experiences with completing the test, connections, and then were you able to see any connections to your AIT results and your interactions in the classroom? So we'll break y'all out into groups now, be about 5 or 6 minutes, and then we'll come back to the main room to share from our discussions.
Yes. Could you not hear me? That's fine.
Okay, they're in groups. I think all the moderators are still in the main room, right?
Yeah. We're here.
Yeah.
Seems like
Are we moving
everyone is having
really fast?
internet issues.
Well, good, because I didn't really, I think I went too fast through my part, but that's okay.
We were shooting for 10 minutes for ours.
Yeah, I was like, oh, but.
I've gotten quite a few messages and chats from people saying that their internet is terrible today and they're getting kicked out.
Yeah, I see that. People are dropping slowly.
Yeah, Seth, yours is really fading in and out at the beginning. Here at the campus anyway.
Yeah, my internet is notoriously terrible. That's why I waited so long to share my microphone and video, just because it's a struggle.
Yeah, I had to completely change mine. It was so bad. I had Windstream. It was horrible to change it, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, we have CenturyLink, and from what I've heard, it's pretty comparable to Windstream in terms of how
bad.
it is. We're working on trying to get a better ISP here so that we can get some better internet. So I'm got my fingers crossed.
Yeah. Yeah, students, during Blackboard sessions dropping in and out because they have Windstream and CenturyLink, and
it's not good when you have a bad internet service. Trust me.
Yeah.
I've had to tell my wife, "Hey, get off the computer, please." That makes her.
And then if I have to VPN to my office at work, I try to do it in just very short bursts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I registered students last year for fall semester at home on a VPN, and I had about 100 of them to do. And it
Oh
took
my.
forever. And once Drew said I could come back to school and hopefully use my office computer, oh man, I could have kissed him because it was that slow. Yeah, it was that slow. Yeah, that slow.
Who's up after me and Lisa?
Then we're going to do questions, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just have we just have one more slide, and then well, what we'll be doing is we'll bring them back, open up the chat box so that if anybody wants to share, and then we've got one more slide, and then we'll be done.
Okay.
Did you time the breakout rooms or?
Yeah, I think it's about time. We probably should.
Yeah, bring them back.
We got about 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Actually,
it was 1:45 when I worked them out.
Should I go ahead and email the quick tip sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I think it'd be okay to work that out.
Okay.
I think I wanted to mention to them too, when we start Q&A, about having the students maybe do videos introductions as well.
As an option in the discussion or whatever.
Yeah.
So many of them are so used to using their cameras.
Yeah.
The younger ones. All right. Are we about ready to close this up?
Yeah.
1:30.
All right. So.
Oh, okay, we're back.
I guess they're taking us back.
And we're coming back into the now. All right. So from your discussion, would anybody like to share part of the things that, or any of the things that y'all shared within your small groups? Feel free to put it in the chat box, or if you want to pipe in via your microphone, that would be great.
In our group, what was interesting is our results on the test were completely opposite of what we felt like personally we were like. And what we actually, got into a really nice discussion about was seeing a connection between the types of students that bring us joy in the classroom. So when we teach students that are young and that are new at something, or we like to do the older adults who might be, you get to see this big growth because they've never done something potentially before, depending on the topic. So I feel like we disagreed a bit, but we felt like it was more situational. What we would do socially versus what we would do teaching-wise or professionally would be different.
Oh, that's an interesting observation, I think.
And so Corey is shared that they talked about recognizing their own biases and making sure to check themselves when those arise and not to assume anything. Thank you for sharing,
Right.
Corey. Would anybody else like to share?
Seth, this is Pam Riddle.
Hey, Pam.
How are you doing? The test did not surprise me as to what my result was. It showed that I had no automatic preference between old people and young people. And I shared with my group that that was probably because my grandmother lived with us when I was growing up as a child. My grandmother had always lived with us, so I always went with her when she visited, like, her brothers and sisters, and so I was very comfortable around older adults. But I wanted to share one experience that I had when I first came to work with the community college. And when I first came to work and I was at the Harnett County campus, it was right after the manufacturing industry kind of had dwindled away. And so there were lots and lots of students back in 2008. And I remember being so excited, couldn't wait to come to work that first day and meet all my students, because I was expecting these young, right out of high school students that were just eager and excited to be there. And when I walked into my first class, it was full of women the age of my mother. And I was just dumbfounded by that. I was just like, oh my gosh. And then as I got to know them and you know, it was introducing myself and asking them about that, you know, about why they were there and what they were doing, and realizing they were having to be retrained because of the new requirements for unemployment benefits. I mean, it broke my heart, because I looked at all their faces and thought, you don't even want to be here. You had no intentions of ever going to school. Your intentions were to graduate from high school, get married, and work. And that was your plan, and you were happy with that plan. And now suddenly all of it's been turned upside down. So I remember immediately having to kind of change my perspective and change the way I was approaching teaching my class, because I didn't have a lot of fresh new faces right out of high school that were excited about being there. I had a lot of people who didn't have support at home and were older and really did not want to be there. And so I was very aware, because it struck me that, oh my goodness, most of my students are the age of my mom or my mother-in-law. So it was very eye-opening for me when I first came here, and I think having to make that adjustment quickly to make sure that their needs were supported was real important.
Thank you, Pam. I wanted to just make a couple of comments, observations based on what people have been contributing. First of all, I think Pam brings up a really good point, and with talking about, you know, the fact that her test results made sense to her because she grew up with her grandmother. And I think that what that does is emphasizes the fact that intrinsic bias is not, it's something that is shaped from our whole life. It's not something that that's, you know, an immediate response. It's something that we really have, you know, developed over a lifetime from multiple experiences, not just, you know, one experience. Also, Amanda's group kind of resonated with my experience. You know, I was surprised because my test results said that I was moderately favored young people over old people, but I think I favor old people over young people. But it made sense to me because I teach young people and I love teenagers and stuff. But when I asked myself how it was going to turn out, it was surprising. It is a great example of what we mean by intrinsic bias not being something that we are aware of. So I was not aware that I must have some bias towards young people, and I didn't know that. I will share one experience. My daughter is at UNC doing women's and gender studies as one of her degrees and a math degree, and a minor in computer science. So she's very heavily involved in math and science. She took the Harvard implicit test, and the test that she took showed that she had a bias towards men in math and science, and she was absolutely flabbergasted. And she said, "It's because I grew up in Chatham County." I'm like, no, it's because your whole life you've seen examples and illustrations where men should be scientists and they should do well in math, and you haven't seen as many examples or experienced as many examples of women in those fields. So I think these are really great tests for you to investigate on your own, and I'm going to encourage you to go to that website and investigate as many of them as you want to. Seth, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, and we just have one last slide up for y'all, and this is to help you to help recognize and overcome any biases that you may have. And this is again from Brown University, and this is their FLEX model. So focus within, learn about others, engage in dialogue, and expand options. So when you're focusing within, making sure that you're recognizing your own emotions, your experiences, and how they have shaped your perspective, sticking to the facts and not making assumptions about anybody, and then trying to turn any frustration you might have into curiosity. Try to learn more about others, recognizing their own experiences and how that may have shaped them, considering how they might see the situation and how that is important to them, and thinking about how your actions may impact them and in their lives. Engaging in an inclusive dialogue, so making sure that you're asking open-ended questions. Listen to understand, not just to rebuke anything that they may say. Offer your views in a non-combative way, and trying to avoid any blame, and just trying to contribute to the conversation. And then expanding your options. Brainstorm for ways to overcome the situation, look for solutions to it, being flexible, and to think about different ways to reach a common goal. Experiment, evaluate. I mean, try something. If it doesn't work, see why it didn't work and try something different. And then just seek out opinions and perspectives from other people and other groups. So with this, we will move over. I believe our Q&A session is next.
Yes. So I know we threw a lot of information at you about various parts of this course we did. I also went ahead and emailed, while you were in breakout groups, the quick tip sheet that we compiled for you. There's a lot of information on it, but I hope it's brief enough and concise enough that it's easy for you to take a look at and implement into your course if you're interested in any of these strategies. So yeah, does anybody have any questions? You can put it in the chat box or unmute yourself.
While you guys are typing, I can give you one more hint too for helping those of you who are scared of your cameras, if you want. So one of the things that is hard for people is to look at the camera, right, instead of all over the room and do whatever. A really neat trick we used to do with our anchors when I worked in newsrooms was we used to tape a picture, something they like, or a family member, maybe their pet, right next to or above the camera lens, and that will give you something to look at that's not directly into the camera lens. So that will help you, and then your students won't wonder why you can't keep eye contact with them. So just a little hint.
Cassie, I'm going to do that as soon as we finish this session.
It's awesome. Somebody printed a picture of their dog. Yeah, it's absolutely a good idea. Oh, that's interesting. No questions? Did we also want to bring up about the students making videos really quick? Well, so another good tip that we got that will show up on your tip sheet is when you're doing introductions in the beginning, if you use discussion boards for students to introduce themselves, consider having them upload a short video as well, because then they can see each other. Again, if students can see and hear what the other people in their class sound and look like, you know, it bonds them a little bit more. It gets them a little more invested. So you can always have them put short videos in the discussion board as well.
One thing I wanted to say is that I guess it's a plug for this ACUE course in case they offer it again, which I think they will. A lot of the strategies that we went over, I felt like with several of them, I went, duh, Erin, why haven't you done that before? But just having the opportunity to study more about different strategies, and also in each module, we were required to either implement the practice now right then during our course or in the near future, and we had to outline how we were going to implement it, why we were going to implement it, and what we thought, either if we had already done it, what the results were or what the student feedback was. So, you know, we all have those lists of to-dos and things that we say, okay, I need to do that in my course next semester. But a lot of times those things get pushed aside once we get down to those last few days before the class starts. So being able to do these exercises in that course last semester forced me to go ahead and prepare it for the next semester, or if I could go ahead and implement it that semester, I did.
And for which video, where to upload, yes, Collaborate, you can have them do it straight through Collaborate. You can have them upload to YouTube or Google Drive. Any of those things work really well. And most students are pretty familiar with Google Drive. They use it for a lot of other things or have used it in high school, so that's a good one.
So students can record themselves through Collaborate? Did I understand that correctly?
That's a good question, because
Yeah, are you asking how students can make videos?
Oh, rather than us make videos. Oh, I get you.
We can use Collaborate for videos. I was just thinking, like the students, like I typically tell my students to use YouTube and just make it on
Google Drive. Yeah. Amanda, are you still here? Can the students record and collaborate? I haven't tried it.
I mean, they can use their phones. A lot of them have smartphones, and now that's not all of them, but a lot of them do have smartphones that, you know, and then they can upload it either to YouTube and share it that way, or to Google Drive and share it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jamie, you have any ideas?
Yeah, I mean, if they have the ability to record, if they have the, you know, the permission, the setting, if they're in there as a moderator that can record, then they can record.
That's what I thought. Yeah, because I had students record quick little things, but I guess they were all moderators in the room. That must have been it. That must have been how we did it.
I can double check with Amanda, but yeah, I mean, it's based on the role generally that they have. If they're allowed.
Yeah, they have to be moderators, because I tried it last semester and I had to go in and make them moderators. I mean, I didn't do it last semester. I did it semester before for some presentations they were doing. when we went to crazy COVID semester.
Yeah, I found Google Drive was the quickest for them because they could just upload it through their student, account and just do it really quick. So that's usually what we used, because we're not asking them to make super long videos, just like 30 seconds or something. So
yeah.
I think a big takeaway from this is all these techniques are going to help you make a connection with your students. And that can really pay dividends towards the end of the semester when they're struggling and they're reaching out to you instead of you reaching out to them. When you make these connections early, you establish these principles, you can really benefit yourself and your students, make your life easier.
Yes, thank you, Nicole. That's a good
suggestion. Flipgrid is easy to use too.
That's a good question, Scott. So we give that out at new faculty orientation. Of course, I've only been in this role for a year and a half, so I don't know what the process was before. Can everybody still hear me? My monitor just went out.
Yes.
But anyways, I have an electronic copy of that file that is in a shared Google Drive, so I'm more than happy to share that with y'all. Yes, I'll actually share it with all of you. I'll do another follow-up email after this and share that link to that file. It's kind of a large file. The book, when it's printed, is pretty thick. But we do, thanks to COVID, we do have an electronic version of it now. So. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I'm going to stop recording.